Welcome to the Make Your Mark podcast. Hey everyone, I'm Mark Moyer, author of Win Again, speaker, career coach, and business advisor. And I help athletes, executives, and entrepreneurs reach their fullest potential. What you're going to be hearing in every single episode are conversations with athletes and other sports-related influencers. And we'll be offering you the insight that you need to succeed in life, including advice that will let you jump past your competition, whether it be for a great new job or taking your business to a much, much higher level. Make sure to connect with me on social media at Mark Moyer Coach and go to my website, markmoyer.com, to get access to the tips and strategies that my coaching clients get directly. If you're looking for ways to make your mark, send me an email to mark@markmoyer.com and I'll get you going right away. Thanks for joining me today. It's going to be an awesome episode. Now, are you ready to make your mark? Let's do this. Hey everyone, Mark Moyer with the Make Your Mark podcast, and I'm broadcasting to you live from New York City. Thrilled to have you on board, whether you're listening here in New York, somewhere else in the United States, or anywhere else on the planet. Thanks for being here. And I'm super excited because I just finished a conversation with Cory Procter, who played football in the NFL, but really, more importantly, has transitioned that into a great career as a speaker, investment management, etc. This guy brings so much energy to everything he does. He's a funny guy, smart guy, but just delivers such a great message. And he really gives such amazing advice for athletes who are still playing and when they transition. So make sure you listen to this episode. But before you do, make sure you subscribe to the Make Your Mark podcast, whether you're listening to it on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, YouTube, wherever. Thrilled to have you on board. Send me any comments to my email, which is mark@markmoyer.com. And go to my website where you'll find so much great content, access to previous podcasts, access to lots of great coaching advice, whether you're trying to take your business to a new level or really want to jumpstart your career. It's markmoyer.com. So with all that said, thrilled to have you here. You're going to love this episode. Cory Procter is a super guy, super high energy. It's a lot of fun. Happy listening. I am super thrilled to have Cory Procter with me today on the Make Your Mark podcast. And Cory, as you will soon see, is an extremely passionate guy, wild, fun, crazy, and he's got the ZZ Top beard thing going, which is kind of cool. Until you find out that it's actually a fake beard. Wait till he does this and pulls it off.
Pull it up.
Geez. But Cory, thanks for being here. Say hello from, I believe, Texas, correct?
That's right, baby. A great state down in the Bible Belt, right in the buckle, DFW, Dallas, Texas. But thanks, but I appreciate you having me on, Mark.
Yeah, my pleasure. It's funny when you say the Bible Belt, but also the belt buckle. And, it's funny because down in, there's sort of Texas, and then there's the rest of the country that's like, yeah, you guys are lame. And then you guys are like, no, we can be our own country. Screw you guys.
Exactly.
And then there's California. They're kind of like, they're out there somewhere. And then there's New York City, which New York City feels that we're the only anything in the world and everything else revolves around us. So it's pretty funny to hear all that. But then Texas is like, no, I don't think so. We got bigger muscles and all that stuff. And whatever. All right. Anyway.
Bigger pool of people, man. Huge. It's good.
Big pool. Anyway, well, thanks for being on. And so we're gonna cover a lot of ground today. I'm pretty excited because I'm gonna want to hear about not just what you're doing today, and we'll touch on your football career and some of the stuff before that. But there's at least two things that really drive you today, and we're gonna jump into those. But really, what I want to start with is, what was it that when you were growing up, that you said, you know what, I think football might be my A ticket anyway. How old are you when you started playing, and at what point did you realize, you know what, I might be pretty decent at this?
I started football 7th grade. We moved around a lot as kids. I'm originally middle of 3 boys, and we played 7th, didn't play 8th, really didn't start playing legit football till high school, and was pretty good. And I was just kind of a fat kid that liked to eat. I played sports, but it's not like it was serious at all. And but what happened was we kind of had some turmoil in my folks' divorce, and I grabbed onto coaches like candy. And so that first time I got a little bit of positive feedback, man, I was on that in a heartbeat, and I was trying to repeat that action like crazy. And so, freshman year was good. Coach liked me a lot because I was just a worker and I had a big body, right? I was 6'4", 240, 250 my freshman year of high school. and just learning how to work. And so, but I got into that and I was doing pretty good. And I think it was my junior year that I got any sort of accolades, right? That's when I was like, okay, I was an athlete. I like to wrestle. I did pretty good at state, but junior year is when I got first team defense, offense, and that was cool. And that's when I started getting letters from colleges. And that was the first time our head coach sat down with me, another player, and our folks and said, hey, you guys have a ton of potential to do this. If you stay on track, keep working and doing what you're doing, you could do this at the next level. And so that was really cool to get that attention. But what was neat is I never really thought of it as like, this is what I'm going to do. It's a dream. Everybody has it. Would love to play in the NFL, love to play in college, whatever, but it's never something that I banked on. And I was kind of at that time frame, like most, I think, high school players or high school kids in general, we're just thinking about showing up the day of, and there's not a whole lot. You're staring at girls, you're trying to get homework done and not flunk classes. But, I loved working out. So I love that environment, and I gravitated to that environment like crazy. And so that's where I was all the time. And there was never a point where I'm like, I could do this. It was just, I was an insane worker that had a work ethic that was kind of unmatched and raised a lot of people's games. I got a cool call from one of my best friends from high school, who was the guy who invited me to play football and changed my life, right? And he was the one invited. He called me up out of the blue, out of being kind of in the dark for several years. And I got to tell him that. I'm like, dude, you changed my life by doing that. But it was cool because he reminded me, he goes, hey, I thought of you. And he was talking to his girlfriend. He goes, you just keep busting your butt, keep working, and keep showing up, and good things are going to happen. And he goes, it made me remind of Cory, me. And he goes, I just remember you had this insane work ethic and ability to just work past everybody else. And it raised everybody's game. And if they couldn't do it, they would fall off.
That's great.
And it was really cool compliment to get that. But that's really what was developed in me. A lot from that positive reinforcement, right, was coaches love hard workers.
Of course. So you've got obviously this work ethic you've instilled. You're in high school and you're busting sort of tail to get there. You're also, like every other high schooler in history, focused on the girls, maybe less focused on the schoolwork. I mean, that was sort of, I get it. But then as you said, you start getting recruited by the schools. And what was it that made you say, you know what, Montana is calling me. I want to freeze my butt off for 4 years, if that's okay, right? So, but I mean, gorgeous state and all, but what in the end brought you up to Montana?
Well, I had a lot, junior year, I had a lot of interest from D1 schools. So a lot of the Pac-10 at the time, Pac-12 now, but a lot of Pac-10 at the time was recruiting me, and a lot of great interest. Had an early offer from BYU. I grew up Mormon, which is a little departed from where I'm at right now. But, BYU was looking at me, offered me early. It was great. Senior year, had my knee scoped during the season, so I missed a few games, slowed me down a little bit. And a lot of the D1 schools dropped off. Big Sky came in, all the 1AA schools. And the only D1 offer I ended up getting was from Idaho, who just recently moved back down to 1AA in the Big Sky.
Oh, interesting.
But Dad used to take us fishing, us boys fishing in Montana, so we loved it there.
Great.
These guys went out of their way. So when I took my recruiting trip, my flight was canceled going there and canceled coming back. So there was a lot of running around for me as a recruit to get in there. And so I remember going into an academic advisor who was supposed to be skiing, taking the day off. She stayed late on a Saturday morning to see me.
Wow.
And I like the coaches plenty. I love the area. Lots of people were nice. And obviously they're recruiting, so they're going to be nice. But it was a feeling there and kind of an emotional role there that I didn't get at the other places. And, where I had it to Portland State, loved it there. It was beautiful in Oregon. But it was just something about Montana that called to me. And I guess probably because I love being outdoors, a little bit of a mountain dude. But these guys win. they're similar to me, where it's just guys who like to go work and have fun. And typically a lot of 1AA schools are getting looked at now, but historically these are guys who are just scrappers. These are the Cole Beasleys, the Wes Welkers, Danny Amendolas, those kind of dudes who are completely undersized, but they're great football players, and they just want to show up and have a good time and wreck shop. And so anyways, Montana, that's where I gravitated to that. And I'm like, all right, I'm going there. And loved it.
And he had a decent career, right? I mean, it was putting aside the word career for a second, but it's beautiful school, beautiful area, campus, everything else. And you said friendly people. And, what's funny is that when people are either recruited into colleges or go on these tours and so forth, I think you're right. I mean, there's usually one that kind of calls to you, like stands out. And that's what happened in my case, where I went to several schools, but there was one that really stood out to me. I mean, Colgate is a small school in the middle of nowhere. And, of course, when I visited, it was like the only day above 50 degrees. And, the rest of the time it was sub-zero and tundra and so on. But I totally get that. And I think it's wonderful. So the interesting thing that most non-student athletes don't know about being a student athlete is that, you basically have three things that you're doing. You're trying to study and eventually make sure you have enough credits, et cetera, to graduate. You need to perform at your top level of your game, whatever the sport is. Oh, and there's also the social aspect of college too. And, the point is you really can only do two of those. So something usually has to give. And so some athletes tend to slide on the academics because they're very social. Others slide, don't really have much of a social life because they're focused on the other two. And then there's others that kind of mail it in athletically to focus on those. But was that the case with you, or what happened in your case?
It was interesting with me. At first, college was a little shift for me because I came in, I'm obviously fully entrenched in football, being in the fall season. I get there for football. It wasn't for school first, right? I didn't show up in August ready for class. I showed up in July ready for training camp.
Right.
And so I come up there first. So my first semester or two were a little rocky. I mean, I think I had a 2.1 or 2.2 GPA. And then I steadily...
Is that bad?
Is that bad? Like,
I may not even gotten that high, but anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, you have to have a minimum 2.0 to be eligible to play.
Yeah.
So yeah, I know there was a lot of people that flunked out, which I don't understand that, but you have to be seriously indebted into your social life to not care at all about school, especially something that costs so much money.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
But I had to, keep a level above for eligibility purposes. But then from there, my GPA continued to climb because, all right, now I get acclimated, I get used to it. I start understanding, I start maturing a little bit and understand, okay, I need to understand you as a professor and what you want, not necessarily try to prove you wrong in different factual deals in the textbook, whatever the case may be, but I need to understand you. And the better relationship you and I have for student to professor, you're going to want to help me. And so that's what a lot of these kids don't understand is that they just show up to class. I'm tired. I might fall asleep. That happened to me, right? It happened to me too, but they walk away never even getting to know their professor at all, when you could have a really big impact on that. And so, all right, you show up.
Where do you think you got that sort of, because that's honestly, that's a very mature point of view, because that's something that I try to instill on my kids and so forth, but it's tough, man, because when you're that age, number one, you kind of think you're always right. And these old guys, what do they know? And, you kind of also feel like you're just kind of, you're school to have fun and this, and what you thought was a very mature thing. And I think that that's something that really people need to spend more time preparing whether it's their kids, their brothers, their whatevers, to when they go into an environment like that. I mean, that's a great perspective. I'm impressed, Cory.
I appreciate it. Well, yeah. And it's good for people to think about that off the bat. I mean, any environment you go into, whether you're trying to have an impact wherever you go, and this might be a job interview, it could be your school, it could be a coach. I did that. My last kind of hurrah in the NFL was with the Saints. And I know I'm getting ahead a little bit, but, I had injuries and a big list of surgeries under my belt. I had a high price tag on my head for my league minimum going into my 7th year in the league. And so there wasn't a lot attractive about me besides being a veteran and knowing what I was doing.
Well, the beard.
Yeah. I mean, from a business standpoint in the NFL, right? So I go to this mini camp with the Saints, and it was funny because I kind of had this demeanor before where I'm like, I always got to be tough, got to look like I'm working and serious all the time. When I'm like, man, I just kind of shoved that aside. I'm like, I'm going to be myself. I'm always a hard worker. I'm going to be fun. I'm going to have fun, and I'm going to respect everybody around. So when I went, I made sure to introduce myself to the entire training staff, to the equipment staff, to not just the O-line coach or the head coach, Sean Payton, who's still there, the special teams coach, but we go have good experience with the people. And then when at the end of the camp, this is 3 days long, 2.5 days, 3 days long. At the end of the camp, I go thank them all. I said, hey, you guys didn't have to treat me. I know it's your job. Yeah. You didn't have to, but I'm thankful for it. And the cool thing about it is on the 3rd day before the last practice, the O-line coach, we're in the O-line room and nobody knows each other yet. This is their rookie mini camp where they'll bring a bunch of veteran guys in to look at them, and nobody knows each other. So he comes in, he starts asking around the room, and he asked one guy, he said, hey, do you know this guy in the equipment room? Or excuse me, he goes, do you know who this guy is? Mark Moyer, I'll use your name. Do you know who Mark Moyer is? No. All right, goes to another guy. You know Mark Moyer? No. Procter. Do you know who Mark Moyer is? I go, yeah, that's the equipment guy. And he goes, and he stops for a second, and he goes, I got this equipment guy coming up to me, and he goes, you know that Cory Procter dude? That's somebody we need on our team. And he goes, I got an equipment guy, and he makes fun of it. He makes light of it, but he goes, I got an equipment guy telling me who we need on our team. I go, but that's not something to be taken lightly, because you're having an impact in every place you're walking. And if you come in and you're respectful, you're happy, you uplift the room in a positive way, not fake. Don't be fake about it. Be you. But you lift it up in the right way, and you're thankful for what people are doing for you, you're going to leave imprints everywhere you go. And that will carry across life, because who knows where I'll ever run into those guys ever again. That's a big thing to carry with people.
You know, Cory, you're absolutely right. And that's a lot of it's very similar to the guidance I give people, where I say, look, and I know you feel the same way, where I treat everyone the same. It doesn't matter if you're a taxi driver, you're a doorman, or you're a waitress, or whatever it is. To me, everybody has tremendous value. And, I never know if they may know somebody, or they themselves could be beneficial to me down the road. And whether they are, they're not, it's irrelevant. It's something where I think, and just the same way you did, where, I always try to put myself in the other person's shoes, their mind, their everything. And, the adage, how would I want to be treated the way I treat others, and that sort of thing, or the other way around. But you're absolutely right. So that's a great story though. And that'll lead me to we'll touch for a minute or two on the NFL career stuff. Mostly because people can check you out on wherever the hell it is and get your, I'm assuming you have a few, aren't there not, and you're behind you on the wall, some of the trading cards, the tops and all that stuff,
Now, these are degrees. I have one. All right. Mine is over here from the University of Montana. This is my wife's law degree. This is her bachelor degree. I'm like, this is mostly my wife right now. So I will use her accolades to make me look good. Totally. I have no problem doing that.
I like that.
There's a lesson in that. Marry up.
And I did, definitely. So I'm with you on that. But there's a day where, you come out of Montana, and then you're thinking, geez, I think I can do this. I can make it in the NFL. I mean, what was the day? What was the moment like when you sort of made it? You knew you were there.
I was on practice squad in Detroit first, and same thing. Great work ethic. I'm trying to remember our Matt Millen was our GM there.
Okay.
He liked me. He would, and this is what good leaders will do. And I know he got bashed a lot, but this is what good leaders do. He showed up, and this Bill Parcells did the exact same thing with the Cowboys, right? Is he would come in early into the facility and he would monitor and see who was in the facility. And I'm not saying you have to be the first guy to get there, because that doesn't necessarily translate to success.
Right.
But there's a certain character that plays to that. So I was a guy that showed up at 6 a.m. every single morning. I love being in the weight room, but I was one of a handful of guys on that team. We were not very good. I was one of a handful of guys that showed up early, and he saw me every morning. So he liked that, right? But it wasn't till I got picked up with the Dallas Cowboys, and I saw a difference in the team atmosphere too. But I became one of the rest of the team in the weight room the whole time. But I went through an off season with Dallas Cowboys under our strength coach, Joe Jurassic, and really had some time to solidify or get comfortable in the league, get stronger, get another year of maturity under my belt. And it was in mini camps and ultimately into training camp, my play was elevated a great degree. And and it was funny because I came in, that's where I was really getting some confidence. And I came in, and Parcells ended up cutting another guy for me. And I remember there's lots of stories around this, but choosing the right one is the hard part. But I remember in the press conferences, they'd ask him, they're like, all right, the other guy that they had cut for me was a high draft pick. And they had a couple, they'll call them busts. I don't call them busts at all. It's draft is complete potential, and it's an investment. But they were calling a bust. They're like, hey, we've had this bust. What was his demise? And he shot back right away. He's like, Procter was his demise. Go ask him. And he goes, and we're getting him for nothing, for cheap. He goes, nice. But what was cool was after that, I had a tough practice, and I think I gave up a sack in practice or something. And I came into the weight room, and it was only him and Joe Jurassic as our strength coach. And Parcells is up on the elliptical, just sitting there riding. And he's not the easiest guy to talk to always, but he goes, what's up, Grizz? He always called me Grizz because that's our Montana, where it's from. Our mascot was Grizz. Right. But he goes, what's up, Grizz? I'm like, what's up, coach? I'm like, getting this protein shake over here. And he goes, you're pretty good, Grizz. You can flop back and forth between both guard spots pretty easy. You're smart. You're no genius.
Yeah. I was going to say, you're not going to get a whole compliment.
You're pretty smart. There. Yeah. And I had to censor myself, and I stuttered a little bit because I had to censor what he was saying. But but it was funny. He cut you down real quick. But it was cool because, like, when you get the confidence of a guy like that backing you up, plus you're playing well, like that's when I'm like, I belong. All right. I belong here. And that's where a different kind of confidence started coming in. I was playing really well. I was inactive that season, but solidified and played a lot the next 2 seasons with the Cowboys, and then went to Miami in 2010. But, ended up having a great career, and it was awesome because it was like I knew that work was taking place. I was calming down where I was having fun with my guys. Right. And developing some relationships, some foundational pieces that you need to succeed with. And so that was kind of my time where I was like, all right, we're in this.
So, and those are great stories between Parcells and, also talking about some of the 1AA guys you played with that and against and so forth that a lot of them came into the league and really have excelled since that time. But So you played through this career of yours, and then you had, as you said, unfortunately, a big long list of injuries and surgeries and so forth. But what was the moment like where you sort of said, you know what, it's time to hang up the spikes, kind of a thing? Was there a specific moment, or was it caused by injury? What happened in your mind at that point?
It's tough. Not many guys choose to step away from the game,
right?
Just because it's a violent sport. When you get to that level, it's a business, 100%. And then you're making business decisions. And so for me, what happened was in Miami, I ruptured my patellar tendon, Thursday night game against Chicago. And what that is, you have a tendon that runs through your knee, through your kneecap that connects your quad to, I forget what the front part of your lower leg is, right? I don't know what that's called.
Yeah, okay.
But it connects and it snapped in half, took my kneecap with it. And so I had zero use of my knee. Not a bad surgery. You can replace it and get it done, be back in 8 or 9 months is the typical recovery time.
Okay.
So I fully expected to be back. What was tough was it got infected. One surgery turned to 5, missed a whole year.
Wow.
And, so now I have a list of surgeries under my belt. I have a higher price tag anyways. I had some invites for workouts, which were great, but the reigning majority of them, once they saw that list of surgeries, they're like, we're going to find go another route. And I tried to come back for about a year. I didn't spend my money when I was playing. I was a pretty frugal guy anyways. And it was just, I didn't spend. So I was good to hang on with my wife, and we're just chilling, working out, trying to make it back, and had some workouts, but it just wasn't hitting it. And there was a lot of money out, no money coming in.
Right.
Or at some point we're living in New Jersey at the time, and God put some good people in our life that we needed to get through that. And it just kind of hit a point where, like, babe, we got to start doing life for ourselves. And this is an important thing. If any athletes are listening to this right now, this is important. So many guys hang on to the dream. I'm not saying don't, but when you're hanging on to the dream, you will pass up so many other opportunities because you're holding on to something that will potentially happen. Okay. And this is what I tell guys that are either playing right now or they're holding out. Work on your side hustle, work on your side passion, work on something that you want to do after football is over, because at some point it's going to be over, whether it's now or in 10 years, it's going to be over, and you're going to want to do something with your life. And us as men, we identify with our work is so much, and it's actually biblical too. I don't know for anybody's faith base, before you're married, it says you have to have faith in God and a job. But we identify with our work so much that when our work is taken from our life, we have identity struggles, issues. And so work on that side passion right now, because what happened in that time frame, even though I was rehabbing, going through training, doing some great things, I missed national championship reunion at Montana for the potential that I was going to get a workout with a team. I missed working on, I wasted a whole lot of time not finishing my degree, not working on potential job, side hustles, whatever I wanted, developing my brand, speaking, whatever the case may be, or finding a second passion purely on the idea that somebody else is going to pick me up. And so many guys waste so much time waiting for that. And when it doesn't, it's a blow. And so
the irony is that you can, as you said, wait for that opportunity, but still work on that side hustle. I mean, there is time during the day and night that you can be, whether it's, doing an online, pursuing like a master's degree online. I mean, lots of guys do that now. Or just learn anything, whether it's something on the computer or something, a trade. You're absolutely right. I mean, the concept, and what's interesting is that, I mean, and this, Cory, when you're 21, 22, 23, you're invincible, you're making money, you've got the girls, the cars, the this, the that, and you don't necessarily think, gee, I need to prepare for when I'm 30 even, or 40. And I think that I know that the NFL and other professional sports are trying much harder now to educate, especially the younger players, on the importance of being ready. But at the end of the day, the NFL and the other professional sports leagues, they mostly care about you performing at your best to put fannies in the seats and make the extra cash for the leagues, right? So it's not always in their best interest to have you worrying about, gee, am I going to pass this class tonight or whatever it is. They want you to rest and be ready for the game, kind of thing, right?
Totally. And that's rightfully so, because it's their business. They're employing you. Okay. And you sign a contract and you have a level you're supposed to perform to. But you have extra time in the day, and maybe not during the season. There are little things you can do during the season. You're busy during, I get that. But there's plenty of time in the off season where we can work on things, and especially if you don't have a job with a team right now. So what the NFLPA, the trust, what we're all trying to do is, and I'm a co-vice president of our NFLPA DFW chapter here in Texas. But what we try to do is provide resources for guys. I'm not going to do the work for you. We can't do the work for you, but I can provide a resource for you and potentially try to equip you a little bit along the way to get things done. And what is that? That might be a learning, that might be a workshop. We're working on what are some characteristics needed? What are some basic guidelines for conversation? That's great. But in the end of the day, you're the one that has to step out and get an interview. You're the one that has to have conversations. A conversation with a young guy who's not a football player, but he's struggling he's trying to get going in his business right now. Moved over here from California, just in my neighborhood. Mm-hmm. And he's like, he's seeing some success I'm having in these avenues that I'm working right now. He's like, man, what do you do? I'm like, brother, I've been to every networking event since I've gotten out of the league that I could possibly be at. And so now, I have a network of people in my life that are just not just crazy influencers, good people, voices for me, but I have so many different avenues I can go to. I've built up these relationships where I can come to you, Mark, and say, hey, this is what I'm looking at doing. This is an avenue I'm going down. What do you think about this? Yeah. And get your opinion. And if you like it, maybe we do business together. If not, who cares? Right? But you can at least provide an opinion or value to me that helps me refine what I'm doing. And Absolutely. All of a sudden I can take that to the next conversation. And what happens is this is same with players too. We're unsure how to direct ourselves, because this is why we relate with veterans or with military guys, because we're in such a structured place in the league. We have itineraries all day long. We're told what to do, coached forever, which is great. When we get out, we have to decide on our own. All of a sudden, it's this big hesitation, deer in the headlights.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what was cool is I went to those networking gigs when I was playing. And I got Lusaka Polite was our fullback here with the Cowboys and with me in Miami. He goes, great piece of advice. He goes, man, go to all of them you can make. We get invited to different functions, even when they're not paid. You're there appearing as a player in your jersey, whatever. Go, because there might be one person that you meet. 9 times out of 10, they might not produce anything. There might be one person you meet that changes your life.
Absolutely.
And it's not to say you prioritize that over your family, but when you're out there and you're active and you're positive with people and they like you, they want to be around that. And it's huge.
Well, we talked about this earlier, but you're absolutely right. Look, to me, my perspective has always been that when you're networking and you're speaking to people and you're delivering a little bit about not just what you bring to the table, but what you're hoping to accomplish going forward and what you can do for them. And if you're offering up, look, the critical thing with networking is always to offer what you have first. And some people say, well, Mark, I don't really have anything to offer. I don't have much experience yet in the workspace. Well, then you have a network. You have people in your network that that could be valuable to your conversation partners. So I would always say, if you can't say, gee, I have 5 years experience doing financial analysis or something, well, you can say, listen, if there's anybody in my network that I can introduce you to, please don't hesitate to ask. I'd love to do that for you. And if you start off a conversation or, inject it in the first couple of minutes, that other person is going to really is going to be drawn in much closer. A quick story, I was chatting with somebody yesterday, and she's one of these people on LinkedIn that is the number one LinkedIn guru, number one expert in number one everything. And she's an expert in all these things. And we had a 30-minute call, and I think 27 minutes were dedicated to her talking about all this stuff she's done. And I kind of was like, I don't really give a crap, honestly. It does nothing for me. And she never once said, hey, Mark, listen, I appreciate what you've done. Is there anything I can do for you? Not once. And I was blown away and she's done video series and corporate stuff and all kinds of things. And I'm thinking, who the hell is hiring her if all she's doing is focusing on herself. I mean, to me, the focus should always be on that person, right? So
Right.
I love what you're saying, and the message is great. And, you know, I think what you're talking about, and we're going to lead into we're going to do a little segue here. You know, from what I understand, Cory, you want to be doing, I mean, you love speaking, it sounds like, right? In front of audiences. That's one of your deals.
It's developed into something.
Yeah. But you know what's great? And what I appreciate about, I think what you're saying though, and it's something that I sometimes have an issue with for some people, especially athletes that they'll, you know, look, here's how it usually goes when most athletes speak at a corporate event. You know, here's my story. I was born I was raised under troubling circumstances. I fought hard. I overcame obstacles. I met Coach. Coach inspired me. We won the state championship. I went to a great college. We won this whatever championship. I scored the game-winning touchdown. I then suffered an injury, but then I overcame injury. I got drafted in the NFL. I had a great career, but then I had an injury, but then I overcame this, and I saw Coach, and Coach enlightened me, and then I retired, and now I'm here. Yay, go team. And the people watching it are like, yay, I think, yay. And then they go running back to their cubicle desk, wherever they are. And they're like, wait, what am I doing? What am I supposed to do again? What? Mm-hmm. So I think a lot of what you talk about right there, and you've mentioned 2 or 3 great bits of advice in our brief time so far, that if you impart elements of guidance and wisdom and tips and strategies and things that these people, when they get back to where they are, they're not just saying, well, wait a minute, I didn't really have a tough upbringing. I didn't have a coach, and I didn't have a career-ending injury. I didn't have all that. But you know what? He's teaching me how to network, or he's teaching me how to expand my network and what to say to people when I meet them. So if you're educating as part of your speaking, to me, that's what really makes you a compelling and a worthwhile speaker. So, you know, that's important. But tell me, I mean, I know you've done a lot of speaking, but do you have sort of a favorite type of people you like to speak to? Or are you kind of good with everybody?
Man, it's funny. It's about 60% faith-based right now, and the rest is corporate gigs.
Okay.
Meaning I'm talking to sales teams, leadership, organizations that, you know, they're trying to better their sales. They're trying to get some buy-in from their teams.
Right.
That's a big struggle.
That's huge.
And or churches that are bringing me in for a message, or a men's conference is bringing me in for a message, because there's a lack of masculinity in what God wants in that, and leaders in this nation. Honestly, but my favorite. I mean, I love kid stuff too. I mean, because I've spoke to a lot of schools, a lot of athletes. I mean, probably one of the best things, as I'm sitting here talking, best thing I love is when people are just they're listening to you wonder, because so many people are in a place of question and they have no idea what their own value is. They have no idea what their own capabilities are.
Right.
And the thing is, that's why I say I'm a big faith-based guy, is, you know, we're created to be conquerors. It's biblical. We're created to be conquerors on purpose. We're created in his image. That means from the dude that made this place, if you're a believer at all, dude that made this place, you're created in that image. That means you're pretty legit standing here on this earth. Okay. That's the leader mentality when you walk into a room. Like, if you're ever in the wrong room, technically, if you're a leader, you're never in the wrong room, because you can change the scope however you want it to be. That doesn't mean just hanging out in a room full of dope, right? I'm going. But
okay, I guess not. But wait, when you talk about so when you're talking to sales groups, you know, so what's interesting, because I've spoken to one fairly recently, and a lot of times when you talk to a bunch of salespeople, they're pretty sure they're really good at what they do. When at the end of the day, their manager will say, maybe not, you know, maybe they need some help. And they, you know, that's the deal, right? Most salespeople have egos, and they're pretty damn sure they're good at the sales part of things. But what do you try to, you know, maybe tell them that they either haven't heard already, or, you know, it might be something that they can run with?
Well, typically organizations have similar problems. And okay, we're all trying to hit quota. We're all trying to hit over our goals so we can get those bonuses, and that's great. But they're not hitting quota, and we're over projecting. And we're having a bunch of fights within our sales team, fights over commissions over a certain sale, whether we split that or not, or we get a lot of the stupid stuff over email. Right. But I'm sitting here reading Mark's email on my computer, and what did he mean by that? And all of a sudden, that little negative seed gets planted in my head, and I start building that. Was what we do. Why text messaging can be so bad is we build that in our own head to a really toxic place that overcomes. And all of a sudden, now you and I have a huge division, and we're exploding as a team, and we're imploding. And what happens is that company now implodes from the inside, poor leadership typically, and that bleeds out to the customers. So now what's happening internally is happening externally, and business is going out the door, and leaders don't understand their basic influence. And so a lot of managers, they come in and they just sit here and point out your numbers. They're like, Mark, you suck this month. What's going on? Like, why do you suck? You better pick this up or you're not going to be here for long. Well, how about you come from Mark's perspective? How about we try to motivate in a different kind of way? Mark, what's, is everything going on at home? Like, how's your wife doing? How are you doing? And we lead from a place of care, because if I give a damn about the person, they're going to buy into me way more as a leader. And so what I come into these sales organizations is I start showing what some very small practical applications of those and realizations can lead to. So if I come in and I'll do this. So if I know I can come in, and I'll use this story about the invite to play football for the first time. So I was in 7th grade. I was on my 7th different school in about 4 years, and moving around. Wondering about my folks' divorce, why it was happening, a lot of confusion, a lot of emotion. And this dude stops me in the middle of the hallway. And the only thing I knew about him was that he'd beat a bunch of people up. I'd seen him get in a fight, and he'd been suspended. Teachers hated him. But I saw him in the middle of the hallway. He stopped me in the hallway when I thought he was going to wallop on me or something. And he invited me to play a football game that changed my life. Wow. All right. So I go earn a scholarship. I get in a family where I can learn to grow. I can get characteristics that are needed in life, hard work ethic, know how to work with a team, know how to take direction from a coach, from a superior, all these things. And I get a scholarship. I play in the NFL. I get my wife. I get my daughter. And I'm sitting here doing everything that I care to do today. And the lesson I always bring from that is the ability to change the game at any point and any time. And so with that means that if I can come in and I get that email that I'm sitting there questioning your tone on, I'm not going to sit there and fire off a stupid email back and just inflame the whole process. I'm going to call you up and say, Mark, what's up, man? What's going on? Is everything okay? And I'm like, hey, and be blunt about it. Like, hey, if you got an issue, we got an issue. Let's talk about it. I want to get this out on the table right now, because you're not trying to hurt me. I'm not trying to hurt you. You're fighting for your family just like I'm fighting for mine, and we need to get on the same boat and see how we can blow each other's game up. And when people start getting that, right, we need that. Our hearts need preaching to, and our minds need preaching to, because without it, we start going down those paths, and that's where places implode. And when the leaders don't bring that messaging to the game and to their organizations, they let it go. It goes off where it wants to go off, and often it's a bad place. And so that's where I come in, deliver some of those, and some of them we broke down actual sales tactics, and how to lead conversations. But if we can come in with some very, very basic belief systems like that, you are going to be far and above everyone else. Promise that.
That's great. One of the things I like to talk about briefly with salespeople is that I find that most salespeople are so focused on the sale itself. And I try to explain to people, look, don't sell, allow them to buy. And what I mean by that is, really focus on your client and what is it they really want? What is it they really need? And how can you address that instead of worrying so much about what it is you're selling? And because so many people get caught up in that, I need to sell you, 3 of these phones or whatever it is. Well, no, you don't, if I don't need a phone, but maybe you have another product that I do need, that sort of thing. But you know what? So now I want to shift gears a little bit more. Well, no, because we're covering a ton of ground here. This is great.
That's so good.
But look, so you've got the speaking, but I also know you got another passion in your life that you really dig on the financial side of things. Tell me a little bit about what got you started in financial management, and where do you want to take that?
Well, like I said, my faith is a huge igniter in my life, and God wants you to be good in all areas. He wants you to hit the home run in every facet. And so what's cool about that is, okay, I'm not just good in this area of my life. I want to be good in a lot of areas. I don't want to be good just in my job. I want to be a badass husband. I want my wife to think that dude is awesome, right? Even though she's shaking her head at me all the time. But I want my daughter to think that I'm a badass dad, and that she knows that I'm going to be reckless in protecting her and love on her like crazy. So I want you to win in all facets of that. So what was cool with me with this financial portion was really, I was in church calling to a stewardship level. This was several years ago, but basically this messaging, same thing. We need this preaching in our heart, right? We can't steward our life in the right way if we don't know. And so what happens is most people, the majority of people, have no idea what their financial picture is in their own household. And I didn't. I was one of those people. So I'm like, all right, I took Financial Peace University with Dave Ramsey, which had some great things in there. Some things I'm like, but he was a great kickoff start. Okay, where I started developing a budget in the household with my wife and understanding, okay, this is what we have. And all of a sudden I did an audit on the household and cut out a whole lot of things that we didn't need. So now I'm saving more money and creating more income internally. And so then I started researching my investments and realizing what my advisor had done with me when I was first playing and going through 2008 in the big market crash then. And what products did she put me in as a player, all my money that I made playing football, that lasted through those hard times and through those trying moments in the market. And so I made it past. I didn't just make it past. I made money in that year. And that's what's cool is, so I'm like, okay, I start going down this route and I decide I want to do this. And I started helping other guys. So I get licensed, start my investment company. And that's what I'm saying. God is just lighting up those doors where I'm having more opportunities, where I'm having those kinds of conversations and I'm helping other people. And it's not just, hey, Mark, let's do business. Let me handle your money. It's not that. No, it's okay. This is normal conversation. You and I are talking, and it's on my mind. It's in my passion. So I'm like, man, I'm sitting here talking about these different annuities or these different funds that I'm going in, or these different value funds that I'm playing around with right now, and other voices that I'm talking to that are great mentors for me, just because it's on my mind and it gets you spinning. Right. And it's you know what you should look at doing? I'm like, all right, you have a 401k. I'm not a big fan of those. So you have a 401k, you should try putting it into a fixed index annuity or something. Try that and talk with your financial guy and go ask his opinion on that stuff and see what comes back. And it's not a, let me do this for you so I get the pay. It's explain what that is a little bit and let you go take that. Because so many people, they get so, wrapped up either in the sale or this is my information and you can't have it, that they lose sight of what the heck they're doing. I'm like, if you really want to bring that value, let it roll, man. I'm like, I'm an open book all the time.
Well, let me tell you why that you're going to be very successful with that if that's the direction you want to go. One of the things I like to advise people, whether you're, if you're a lawyer or you're an insurance guy or financial, is that most of the general public out here, most people do not know what it takes to have a will, do not know what it takes to be, they don't even know what an annuity might be. They don't know. There's a whole lot of things that people just don't know. And then what happens is they'll go to a lawyer or an insurance person and say, gee, I just need life insurance, but they don't really know what that means.
Right.
And if you're the guy or the woman who is explaining, well, listen, when you have a will, this is what happens. 1, 2, 3, 4. Or if you want to have your money in something that will be safe for you for the next 5 to 10 years, whatever it might be, here's a smart way to do it. And you're not necessarily saying, as you said, gee, you should invest with me, but here are the things. When you start educating people, they notice that and they remember that, and and the business will come your way, and you know that. And that's, it's funny. I was chatting with a guy who also played in the NFL for a bit, and he has his own insurance practice. And I said to him, listen, all you got to do is put out there, the top 4 things to look for when you're considering life insurance or whatever it is. Just put out information like that, and you educate people. They're going to come to you. I promise you. And that's to me, I would be so thrilled to see content out there from, a TV commercial, from so-and-so lawyers. Well, instead of just showing me, this person made 8.2 million on their last, whatever it is, if it just said, listen, if you're in this situation, A, B, C, D, here's what you can do. Well, of course I'm going to dial them, right? So I think what you're talking about is fantastic. Now, so you've got the investment management stuff, you've got the speaking stuff, and sounds like things are going gangbusters. Right? They are, they're not.
It's just things are happening, and I'm like, I can't fully explain everything, right? But all I know is that's what I'm saying. My faith lit up a passion in me, and in lots of different areas. And so I'm like, I love talking about it. I love sharing that, because you can't pour from an empty cup, right? So I absorb an insane amount of information, and now it just happens to spill out all over everybody. And the people who want to hear it, they grab on. And so I have some amazing conversations right now, just like we're having right now, amazing conversations with people who have just done some crazy things. I just got back from Israel, speaking at a men's conference over there, which blows my mind, because I'm like, a church doesn't just pay my way over there, but pays me to be there, right? To share my faith, my testimony, and my stories, and what that means from God. But on top of it, I meet a hedge fund manager who is just an incredibly faith-based guy who has nothing but knowledge. He's an older fellow, so he's been in the game for a long time and knows a lot of things, but he's just pouring out knowledge on me. And I'm like, it blows my mind, because God's just lining all these people up in my life, and things are happening. So I can't fully explain it, but he fills me up.
That's amazing.
Lines it up.
Awesome. Well, look, I want to, we have a few more minutes, and I want to jump into the hit your mark segment, because I like throwing a couple quick questions at you. And so I'm going to put you a little bit on the spot, but it's easy stuff. Trust me. The first one is, you've played all kinds of football and been around a whole lot of locker rooms, and a lot of G-rated stuff, obviously, I'm assuming, but possibly non-G-rated stuff. But keeping it on the G-rated side, give me an idea, looking back, if you could think of a specific prank that wasn't necessarily done on you or you did, but you saw that you thought was just absolutely hilarious.
Man, that's hard to keep that G-rated. That's a tough. That's a tough. Well, okay. As old lineman, we just did stupid stuff all the time. And I mean, we used to move guys' cars. So we'd go out through a walkthrough on practice. And one time, Mark Colombo moved Andre Giroud's Escalade out onto the practice field. And so we come out for a walkthrough, and all of a sudden, all right, whose truck is sitting on the field, but we had one of my favorites, was not necessarily a prank, but it was a game we had, which is kind of a jerk game. But we would have this in the locker room where if anybody had something like reading a magazine or a paper, we would slap it out of their hands.
Okay.
And it's led to anything. So if you were holding anything in your hand in the locker room, we would slap it out of your hand. And the rule was, it was bad because you'd be walking down the mall, and all of a sudden you felt like you wanted to slap the paper out of the old dude's hands.
Oh, Jesus.
You're like, I gotta get away from this.
Oh, boy.
But the game was, okay, it would evolve as we slap it, but we got used to it. So we could see it coming. So if anybody would slap and they didn't get it out of your hand, you could hit them over the head with whatever they were trying to slap out of you. So
it's kind of like this game here where you had to do that too. Same idea. That's pretty funny.
Totally that.
Oh,
so
that's
it ended
great.
up being food. It ended up being magazines, a lot of stupid stuff.
It kind of reminds me of real fast. When I was pledging a fraternity, and one of the things we did to the pledge master was he lived in an apartment, and he was out for the night or out somewhere, and we all went in and removed everything out of his apartment, but set it up on the front lawn exactly where it was in the apartment. So everything was just like it was perfectly like the lamp, everything was we even ran an extension cord and had everything plugged in. It was brilliant. That's a whole nother story. Anyway, so another thing that really bothers me about professional sports and its athletes are all the cliches that are flying around. Yeah, we're just in this to win it. We're all this, so many of them are, to me, a load of crap. I'd love someone to just say once, you know what, that guy's a total jerk and I can't wait to pummel him or something, whatever it is, right? What is one of your least favorite cliches that you hear, whether it's in football or any sport?
Least favorite cliches, cliches. That's hard. I mean, you hear the classics. We're going to give 110%.
Yeah,
we're going to go out there, focus, do these things, and it's kind of the drab stuff. I don't know. Maybe the cliche that not necessarily that, but football players are dumb. And we actually, we had a lot, guys. Come out. A lot of the bad stuff gets highlighted. Right. So that's what I don't like so much is you have a lot of there's a lot of bad things that come from an abusive game like that, but there's not near as much highlight of what people are doing well and guys that are really kind of succeeding afterwards. But I don't know if that's playing into the make your mark cliche game.
I know, right? I was like, wait a minute. But, it's funny though. You mentioned the 110%. Actually, when I play ice hockey still, and a lot of times afterwards in the locker room, I'll say to guys, today I got to tell you, I gave a full 72%. I like to, Anyway, all right. One last. I'm going to throw this at you real fast, but who is your favorite? Ready? Drummer of all time.
Drummer. Oh man. You could do a bunch. Neil Peart is always a classic.
Sweet.
My wife thought Rush was a fake band.
No way.
From what's that movie, Babe? She's in
Spinal Tap.
Not Spinal Tap.
Yeah.
Spinal Tap. I was thinking of Trailer Park Boys, but it's not that. It's a Mandate, whatever the movie it was. Yeah. It was where they were doing a bunch of Rush stuff. Anyways, Neil Peart, sick. But always loved Dave Lombardo from Slayer. He is sick. He's awesome drummer.
Well, because rumor has it, you still play or not as much?
Oh, yeah. Still play the drums, not near as much as I used to, but I get up on the kit once in a while and bang some skins.
Yeah, you used to play in a little band there for a bit? Little metal stuff?
Little metal stuff. Me, Mark Colombo, Leonard Davis, and a fourth guy, Justin Chapman. Released an album. That was a blast. Actually had a number of shows we did and played with some names. We had Five Finger Death Punch, Flyleaf, Cage the Elephant, Seven Dust. I'm thinking of the hair metal band in Vegas all the time we played with. Vinnie Paul's a huge fan of them.
So that's probably something most people don't know about you, right?
Not much. If you Google it, you'll see band stuff with us from Free Reign. But I love music. Music's been a powerful
it really is
in my life.
It sure is. Well, look, I mean, we can talk forever, but we probably have to cut this off in a sec. But look, I see as I spend a lot of time coaching and advising athletes and ones that make a transition. And, I'm excited to speak to you and go through this because it's clear to me that you've really embraced not just faith, but also what the skills and capabilities you've been given as an athlete, and you've really leveraged them to success, after your career. And, the work ethic element and the ability to almost, as you said, walking into a room and being a presence and being being a leader. And these are all critical elements that many athletes don't realize that they bring to the table. And once they learn more and more to carry that confidence that they exhibited on the playing field and they bring it into the corporate, the office or whatever they're doing. I mean, that's essential. So Cory, you've been a great guest. You're a funny guy. You're talented. You got a great beard. You've got a shiny head, and but you're a fabulous guy. I really appreciate you being on, and it's I'm sure we'll have plenty of chats going forward because you're a great a person to be a blueprint for other players making that transition. So thanks again for being on the Make Your Mark podcast. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks so much for joining us today on this episode of Make Your Mark podcast. The goal of the podcast is to help you find ways to make your mark, to succeed in life, and to jump past your competition. Be sure to leave me a review on iTunes and Stitcher, and subscribe to be the first to hear new episodes. If you're looking for ways to make your mark, send me an email, mark@markmoyer.com, and I'll get back to you right away. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.